the best university of life I had was the travel and the tourism and the hospitality. Meeting people, the cultures, the food, lifestyles, the way that the country's operated, and bringing that back in has definitely given me my degree for life and how I live my life, and how I see everything.
On today's episode of Careers Unwrap, we're excited to have here Kelly Johnstone, who's a seasoned senior executive in the tourism, leisure and hospitality industry. She's currently serving as the Chief Operations Officer at Springboard, and we'll come on to that. And her leadership's been pivotal really in shaping the future talent pipeline for the hospitality and tourism sector. So today, hopefully, she's going to share some of her insights into the industry, discuss her journey through various leadership roles, and also pass on some valuable advice to younger professionals, perhaps looking to make their mark in this vibrant, exciting field of work. So Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I look forward to talking all things hospitality and tourism with you.
Well, that bounces me perfectly onto my first question then. It is such a varied area of work. What has been your personal favourite on-the-ground hospitality job or role you've ever done?
Well, probably I've done quite a few. So I would definitely say when I was younger, it was working front of house and in a variety of different roles. So I started off when I was 16 plus in restaurants, both big restaurants and small family-run ones. Then when I was old enough, I could work behind bar. So again, a mixture of bars, some community pubs, some sort of lounges, sports bars, and then I ended up in the kind of nighttime economy, so the later bars and the nightclubs. So anything sort of front of house, involved with the customer, anything that was fast paced, enjoyable, meeting different people. That would say I would probably be my sort of most favourite time. I started washing dishes at 13. Not sure I'd say that, but yeah, I did, in a cafe. Didn't like it, but I enjoyed getting the little brown pay pack at the end of each Saturday shift.
No, that I do remember, because after I did a newspaper round, earned a bit of money that way, and then my first pay packet job was also washing dishes in county stores restaurant in Somerset, and it was also not my favourite role. And I did enjoy being a waiter, which I did in several places, from sort of smart hotels to working in a harvester after university. And I think to the things you just said about there, what I most liked about it was quite fast paced, so you were never bored. And also you just got to deal with all sorts of different people. So it has always had variety and it was always interesting. And so we've both done roles in this industry. You obviously know a lot more about it than I do. But at a macro level now, what is the state of the industry? Because years ago there were the impacts of Brexit, the obvious impacts of COVID, which already seem several years ago, seem a long way away. But what is the state of the sector, the health of hospitality at the moment?
There's a few challenges. We've just seen the recent budget announced. What the main challenges at the minute is, a lot of the businesses are getting hit with the costs to operate, and there's a whole load of them underneath that. One of the big things that will hit from April next year is the rise of national insurance contributions that the businesses have to pay, and the lowering the threshold of the minimum amount of salary being paid, which is almost like a double whammy. So businesses are seeing extra costs, and that's affecting them. I guess the positive coming out of COVID and the pandemic was businesses were really looking. There was a critical point for recruitment. They lost a lot of good people during that time that never came back. And there was a lot of changes that businesses made for the good. So a lot of we had to be competitive in salary. They had to be competitive with the packages as well, the hours, the flexibility of hours, a lot of stuff that are associated with a kind of myth of what it's like to work in the sector. That was really, really, really improved. So that's probably a positive thing. So the packages and the support that the sector and good employers offer at the minute is brilliant. They're not in a state where there's an immense need for panic recruiting, which is where we were sort of coming out of 2020, 2021. But but there is a skill shortages in certain areas. So that's where Springboard supports trying to find future people to fill roles like the chef roles, like the housekeeping roles, the traditional roles that have always been more difficult to find. I think at the minute the industry is in its busiest period, so the heads are down, the people are working, our trainees are working. I think next year when we sort of wake up from that whole festive buzz, there'll be a lot of challenges with businesses trying to just review costs and look at different things. So I think that kind of challenge is probably what's facing the sector. The people part of it, still really positive. We still need people to work in the sector. And as I said, the benefits have improved remarkably over the years.
And you mentioned in that Springboard, where you've got the role of Chief Operating Officer at the moment, perhaps just give us a really brief description of what Springboard does in terms of its relation to talent coming into the industry.
Yeah, well, you opened it very nice with our vision. So that's about future-proofing the talent pipeline for the sector. I guess very briefly, our USP and the thing that we're very proud about is we're a charity that sits specifically in hospitality and tourism. So everything that we do is to support that sector and the talent pipeline and the vacancies within that. There's sort of two areas to our main parts of our work. The first one is around careers and education. So we do a huge amount of work promoting the sector, a bit like what I'm talking to you about today, Mark. The opportunities, the breadth of the jobs, which is sometimes quite mysterious because there actually is so many roles in the sector that you can do. We go into schools, we support the curriculum with various programs. We've got a flagship program called Future Chef, which does exactly what it says in the tin. It finds the rising stars of chefing, and another variety of programs just really promoting the sector and opportunities and what young people have in terms of how they can pathway in. So apprenticeship opportunities, further education opportunities, graduate apprenticeship opportunities, work placement. So we spend a lot of time championing the sector, and we also work closely with bodies that champion the sector and also try and change the negative perception. There's negative perceptions from everywhere, even, the government, they like to use a frame called low skilled. And it really annoys me when they say that the sector is low skilled, because some people, you can be 21-year-old running a hotel. That's not low skilled. You can't do that and having low skills. So the chat around the sector, and then you've got teachers and carers and parents and anyone that's influencing a young person sometimes don't really understand what the sector has to offer, and it's got a little bit of a bad reputation.
And I think that's key there, because you mentioned parents, you mentioned carers and teachers, and there aren't hordes of them saying, go on, my son, go on, my daughter, go and work in a pub, go and work in tourism. And it has a reputation perhaps of being an industry which is very much something you do before you go and do a proper job. Yeah, I've seen myself inside it, that just massive range of opportunities and different pathways. So how are you busting these myths that exist, aside from the education activity you're doing?
It's very interesting. It's just all about continually to talk and work with our really close business partners, which are the businesses that we work with, to explain, first of all, what they have in terms of roles. So I think traditionally parents and carers and teachers think it's just bar work and kitchen work. So we do a lot of work around promoting all the other roles. So in today's world, some of the jobs that we are going to have in 10 years' time are not even created yet. But there's so many jobs in hospitality and tourism that range from, yes, being in the kitchen, but you can now be working in social media. You can be a marketeer. You can be working in sales. You could be a greenkeeper. You can work in events. It is literally like so broad that there is a job that would suit anybody in terms of what they want to do. The other area that we promote is apprenticeships. Is a really good opportunity for young people to, if they don't want to go to university, which is a lot of people don't, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Apprenticeships in hospitality are super because they get paid, and it's now more or less the living wage or above the living wage, which around 53% of our employers are in Scotland are paying, which is amazing. That's improved dramatically. But yeah, they also get the opportunity to study and work and come into the sector, getting a bit of an academic apprenticeship behind them, but also working and getting paid at the same time. And that is really, that's interesting for young people because it's something that's maybe not been explained to them. So we talk about that. We talk about the businesses themselves. We talk about initiatives that are going on. There's a lot of businesses that have really good sustainability and green initiatives, and that is for the younger generation very important. So we try and highlight that. We highlight other perks, such as the businesses now that we work with. Yes, you're going to get a bad employer. We're not saying that, but most of the employers have employee assistance programs now, which support employees through a variety of areas of their life outside of work. Quite a lot of businesses also have flexible work approach as well. And traditionally, hospitality wasn't recognised as that. It was recognised as low paid, long hours, low skilled, toxic environment. And I would say probably the most needs busting is that, I've made friends for life in this sector, and it's such a great place to come into. And most young people will, when they start working in it, if they make friends, those people will be their friends for the rest of their life. I
think the people piece for me is a really important part and positive of the sector in particular. It attracts characters. It attracts people with stories or who create stories. And I think of some of the people I worked with when I was much younger who were deputy managers in hotels or restaurant managers and others. And a lot of them had also traveled quite extensively because it's a skill set that you can take with you relatively easily. But some of the individuals I meant just brought their establishments to life. I wonder from your perspective, are there any particular individuals who you have the strongest memory of, either mentors or characters who really brought work to life?
Yeah, when I'm doing a talk to young people, I always share this. The industry's not for everyone. And you've summarised it quite well there. It isn't for everyone, and that's okay to say. I think you have to be a strong character. You have to want to work in a fast-paced environment. Doesn't matter, whatever role you're in, generally because of the type of industry it is. It's different every day. So that, again, is appealing to some people. Fast-paced, different, and full of big characters that you can get along with. So we always say that it's not for everyone. But at the same time, if that suits you and you can deal with people, I think it's very important that you understand that that's what the sector's about. It's hospitality. It's looking after people. It's making people have a nice time. Then I think you'll be fine in it. And yeah, I probably have way too many stories. I spent 18 years of my life abroad working for Thomas Cook as a holiday rep. And I started at the grand old age of 20. Left home, waved bye-bye to my mum and said I was going to do a season because I wasn't quite sure the pathway I wanted to take into adult life because, I was working in hospitality and everyone was saying to me to get a job, a proper job as such. So I met a lot of characters there. I met a lot of characters that were very good with people, a lot of characters that were really just larger than life, but also entertaining. But I think the key thing for the key people that I can remember is that they were always very focused on looking after the customer. And it was always about that. It was always about me bringing enjoyment and laughter and fun. It's probably one of the few sectors that you can still say does that.
Yeah. I'm going to have to ask you then, as a holiday rep in your 20s, tell us a best of times and a worst of times story from that period.
The best of times was the amazing things that I got to do. I got to scuba dive. I got to bungee jump. I got to whitewater raft. I got to sit on top of cows. I got to do jet skiing because I did sort of cold winter repping and then hot summer. I did the tobogganing coming down the mountain. Just amazing things. Night skiing in the dark. Endless amounts of things like that. And I got to travel the world and spend some time in some amazing countries and meet some amazing people. A downside, it was the drama. Hotel fires, having to deal with that, emergencies, illnesses and deaths. Not nice emergencies, but But I think the worst one was dealing with the ash cloud, where the world kind of stopped. You know, yeah. So we were stuck on Cyprus, and lots of people trying to get home through various ways, and dealing with a lot of customers, and a lot of people in different places. You know, the airport, on buses, and that was probably a 72-hour shift.
When that came in, I was actually in Morocco, in the desert east of Marrakesh, and we had these stories. People go, "There's a volcano in Iceland. You can't fly out of Marrakesh." I thought that's got to be nonsense. We're in the middle of nowhere. In the end, we had to get a train from Marrakesh right up to the north of Morocco to get a ferry. And I remember on the train that the toilet was a hole in the ground with the tracks rushing underneath, and we had to hold my son by his arms above this hole because the hole was 2 times the size of him. And they actually remember this trip. All of my family now really, really remember that. But there were lots of people who worked for airlines, who worked for hotels, who worked in the different areas, all of whom piled in to both people we knew and ourselves to try and help them individually get home and sort it out.
It was crazy because what had happened was it just kind of the world switched off. But we had people in the hotels, and we had people going to the airport, and we had people coming in. So we almost had double capacity in the resort. We had no beds left to put people in. So it was a big team effort, and it was really nice. Hoteliers were opening their doors and not charging anything. And it was literally just about, let's get people fed and watered. But then the evacuation plan was military style, and working with the embassy and the consulate and the army at the airport. And I guess the only downside, goodness knows how they managed to get there, but the ITV, GMTV got there, and they were running around trying to film us. We were running around our high vis trying to make sure everyone was okay, and we were getting cameras pointed at us. But yeah, that was interesting.
It's a great sector to develop skills. And a lot of people now, we have a very subject-focused education system. Take these subjects, pass these exams. And then young people leave that and they enter a very skills-focused adult and employment life where people are seeking out their communications, their teamwork, their resilience. And it always struck me that this sector, that hospitality, was a brilliant place to actually develop these skills, whether you stay in the sector or move on from it. But it's sort of like an accelerated course in all the skills you need to get on.
Yeah, I would agree. And I always say to young people as well, it's got quite a really fast promotion opportunity. You can climb, if that's your thing and you want to climb the ladder, you can become a team leader and a supervisor and a manager of a department quite quickly, because you really just need to take yourself to the business. As long as you're communicating and you're a team player, the depth of learning and development that the industry offers, not only just from a business point of view. So one of our partners, Hilton, they've got the Hilton Academy, which is fantastic, but you've also got smaller businesses tapping into local initiatives. So I would definitely say, from a learning and development point of view, aside from the apprenticeships that are on offer, there's so much more. There's bespoke training, there'll be specific training relevant to your job role. There'll be training on things like dealing with customers. There'll be, having difficult conversations. There's all your health and safety training. There's so much rich training, and grabbing onto that. There's also amazing management development training within organizations and some of our business partners. So again, you can fast track your career quite quickly and build that up. And I would say it was probably, I'm a benefactor of that from Thomas Cook. The training was second to none. Train the trainer, coach the coach, leadership, change management, lots of training like that. It didn't have a university degree attached to it or, a proper accreditation, but it gave me skills that I moved over into different roles. So you can transfer them really easily. Communication, people skills, line management skills, so many entrepreneurial skills, sales. It kind of, you become this person that can do quite a lot.
No, absolutely. I I so agree with that. And I've seen it actually in myself because I've done a number of different roles, and actually some of the foundational skills I developed in hospitality, they helped me when I was in the army in the Middle East. And only in hindsight, you think about actually when I was dealing with all sorts of different people, different situations, different cultures, a lot of having been thrust into those positions, age sort of 16, 17, hospitality just gave you the confidence, and also, as you say, it's very entrepreneurial because you're making business decisions quite quickly in so many different roles within the sector overall.
I mean, I agree with the military comparison, because when I started as a rep, the training was very militant, but in a good way. I'm not complaining, and I feel my discipline, my time management, my being on work on time, and my presentation and appearance was drilled into me in a business point of view from a very young age in terms of working in hospitality and tourism. And then I'm just taking them with me through life. The other thing I always say to people is, a lot of my friends at that point in life where we were at a junction that were going to uni to do this and that, and I didn't know. I now say that the best university of life I had was the travel and the tourism and the hospitality, meeting people, the cultures, the food, lifestyles, the way that the country's operated, and bringing that back in has definitely given me my degree for life and how I live my life, and how.
And talking about it as a degree, there are university degrees that are very focused on the sector, but I wonder if one was talking to, let's say, an 18-year-old who was thinking of going and doing a travel and tourism degree for 3 years, or the alternative, starting work straight away in a hotel, let's say, who's going to be in the best place 3 years later, after 3 years of a degree and 3 years of working in the industry?
Well, I know the answer to that. It's my personal answer. It's not Springboard's answer, but I would tell the person to go and start an apprenticeship within the sector while they're working. Hands-on approach, learn so much more. I think that person would be in a better place. But also, the experience, and I think nowadays it's just the money that you're earning. You're earning money while you're working, while you're learning. And I think they're very undersold. I think when young people hear apprenticeship, is kind of maybe frowned upon, or they don't quite understand it, or they think it's low paid, or it might just be like really low skilled roles that you're doing. But there's so many really good apprenticeships out there. Our sector themselves in Scotland have a bespoke one that employers run. So it's apprenticeship in Scotland, Scottish hospitality, and it's built specifically around each employer's needs. And it's so great. And they come out at the end of the day with an apprenticeship over the 2.5 years or 3 years, what it is. So I would be an advocate of doing apprenticeships. We see as a charity young people that have gone to do a degree in another subject and they work in hospitality whilst they're studying, which again, that's a great opportunity, and it might suit you at the time, and we don't shy away from encouraging that. But then what happens is they get their degree and then they stay in hospitality because the opportunities there, they've got more, they can travel, like you say, they can transfer their skills across, and the degree then becomes kind of redundant to what they've been doing. So yeah, I would always say get yourself into work.
And so from this conversation, anyone listening in now, I think would really be getting a good picture of the vibe of working in this sector, of the pace of it, of the really people-focused aspects of it, of the ability to grow in terms of responsibility really pretty quickly, and to probably never get bored. So if that vibe is appealing to someone who's going, actually, that sounds like me, on a practical level, how do they start thinking which direction to go in? Because where do you start almost?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess probably I would say start local, start in your own area where you are, have a look around at places that you like and also that you wouldn't mind working in, because that also helps. We always, if someone's really got a keen interest in coffee, so many coffee places around now that you could, ask and knock the door and say, have you got any sort of work there? So again, if you're really interested in events, it's always good that if you're going to go and work some hours that are maybe not always social hours, then that you like events. So that would be a big tip. start where you think the things that you enjoy. If you love pizza and you fancy working in a pizza place, again, go and speak to them. We would always encourage young people just to start in the local area, make contact that way. If they walk in with their CV or even without it and say they're looking for work and the employer is looking, then I'm sure they'll get a warm welcome. Failing that, I would direct them to our website, because our CareerScope website has got a whole list of information, different employers. It is quite broad. So if you start local, you build your knowledge up on, there's coffee shops, there's restaurants, there's bars, there might be a museum, which is classed as hospitality, there might be events, but then it does get broader. So for example, contract catering. Contract catering is serving offices and schools. And so it's more of a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And that just takes a little bit more building up their knowledge around that and what they would find. And then also ask their careers advisor within the school, because we work so closely with them. We have we have an expectation that they're pointing them in the direction of the tools available and the opportunities. And then I would just research apprenticeships. Apprenticeships is always a good place to start, and that'll give them a list of ideas of maybe what they want to do. I think hospitality is about trying a little bit of everything. And then you find what you're really good at, and you find what fits you and what you like. And that's probably most important. There's no point doing something that you maybe don't necessarily like doing. Because at the end of the day, you got to enjoy it where you're working as well.
And every industry now is being affected by advances in technology. And it's clear to see in some, but in such a sort of people to people focused sector, what are the big changes that technology is bringing now or about to bring to the industry?
Yeah, we're quite lucky as a sector, because it's kind of helping us. So it's creating new jobs for us as well that weren't there before. So a lot of the point of sale and booking systems are, IT and AI specifically is really helping them become more efficient, which is allowing then team members to be doing what they should be doing and is dealing with the customers. So I think that's a skill set that is an untapped job market. And if young people have got specialism in that, and again, the sector is the place for them. What we are not going to see is that you're not going to see robots serving cocktails at a bar, or, some form of, that's just not going to happen. So you still need the people element. You still need the person making the bed. Okay, there may be a robot hoover assisting, but there is still people required there. So I think we're in a good position where it'll complement us. It's very good for small businesses, for booking inquiries and things like that, requests coming through from customers prior to them arriving. And normally that would have drained the time of someone within the property where the system that they've got is intuitive enough to reply. So it's about using it well. We don't see any major concerns that it's going to replace people. I think what we can see is efficiencies coming through for the businesses, and particularly now that the costs are going up for loads of other activities. So efficiencies by using IT and AI and technology, and then putting that back into people who do what they do, and be the front face of the business.
And yourself then, in your own career, because you've gone from, as you described it with the holiday rep, very hands-on at the coalface in country, dealing with travelers as well as with problems, and now you're very much in a leadership role, an executive role. What are the skills and experiences that you gained early on that help you now and today in the work that you have to do?
I'd probably say my key skill is people at the minute. And leaders are meant to have that as a strength. I would say that's one of my skill sets: people, leading people and everything around people. So, people's strategy, putting people at the heart of your business, because if you don't, then it won't work. Let's face it. And then, all the support that goes into that. So whether that's recruiting, whether that's training, whether that's performance management within the business. So that's a key strength I took away. I was leading teams from, I think my first job was a supervisor of an 18, and I had a team of 4 people and then that grew until now. So yeah, definitely people and leading people. What did I learn overseas? I a wealth of things. Very running a business, having a lot of autonomy to run a business at a young age, which means that you are ultimately responsible. Fast-paced decision-making, critical thinking, financial acumen, reading budgets, creating budget, and dealing with problems quite quickly. So problem solving. And then, I think I was very, results orientated is probably something that was driven into us overseas. So again, ambitious to make sure that you're meeting your targets and that you're hitting your objectives effectively and that everyone's successful. But also, I think probably I came away with, I lived in a world of tourism and hospitality where we really are keen to succession plan and really just give the people that are coming through the training, the support, the coaching that they need to develop. And ultimately you can sit back and say, okay, if I'm not here, that person could do my job. And I guess that's what I've continued to do. So,
and with that career journey you've had then, if you could go back to your younger self and meet 18-year-old, 19-year-old Kelly and give her some advice about things to do, things not to do, things to do more of or less of, what might you say to your younger self with the experience that you've now gained?
That's a hard one, because I think I did the right thing. I'm not trying to be too, sort of cocky here, but I said to my mum, I didn't want to go to uni. I wasn't right. And what I said to her is, I don't want to go to uni and spend 5 years doing something that I'm maybe not fully committed to. So let me try different things. I went to college, I did an HND in computing, I did an HND in business and travel and tourism. And then I wanted to be a cabin crew, did various applications, failed applications for that. And then I got the job to be an overseas holiday rep. So I think that I made the right choice there. I think if I'd gone to uni and studied something like computing, I know now it's not for me. So I would say, stick to your guns, stick to how you feel. And as long as you're making a convincing argument that you dig in. I guess maybe for me, it would be my 38-year-old self that I would probably say something to now. And that's, I came back to the UK in 2012. I'd kind of got to my ceiling promotion-wise, career-wise. Overseas, so I had to make the return back to the UK, and I was always convinced that I should have done a degree and I should study, and then I embarked on that. And then someone said to me, why do you want to get a degree just to sort of rubber stamp all the skills that you've got and that you can demonstrate? And I was like, that's a good point. So I stopped that and just continued to work.
Right. Well, look, Kelly, it's been very fast, but it's almost the conversations, I think, so brought to life what working in hospitality can be like. If you can't tell, I'm a big fan of the sector. I think it offers so many opportunities. And as you've brought out in here, the opportunities for responsibility and progression at a really very young age. It's very people orientated. And whilst they say that about lots of jobs, in this, genuinely, it is the best of people, and sometimes, but not too often, the worst of people as well you deal with. It can have adventures, it can have drama in it. It's got a huge variety of roles. And you advised also in there to, if this interests you, taste it by starting local and see what you can do. But I know, and I've seen it myself, people who go into this sector and are just determined to make the best of it they can, create the most fantastic opportunities for them. So Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today. Anybody young who's thinking about this, do look at Springboard as well. But there are many different routes you can think about, and taste it, try it. It's a fantastic sector where a lot can go on. So Kelly, thank you so much for joining us on Careers Unwrap today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I could talk all day, but we've not got all day, but it's been brilliant, Mark. Thanks so much.
This podcast is sponsored by We Are Futures. To find out more about We Are Futures and how we can introduce your brand, business or organisation to the mass markets of tomorrow, visit www.wearefutures.com. Make sure to search for Careers Unwrapped in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Remember to click subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at We Are Futures, thanks for listening.